Bina Das, the revolutionary daughter of India, a firebrand, a militant nationalist, a zealous freedom fighter, all these can be used to describe India's courageous daughter, Bina Das. Yet, they fail to paint a complete picture of the woman to whom her country owes so much. She nurtured a fire within her that grew to infuse its warmth and spirit into her words and actions, also spreading it to her comrades, lending them the strength they needed to fight for their country. This is the story of a fearless woman who created history at the young age of 21 by being the first woman to use weapons against the oppressive and suffocating British rule in India in order to give her country the freedom it deserved. Early life and education. Bina Das was born on 24th August 1911 to Beni Madhav Das and Sarala Devi in the city of Krishnanagar in the Bengal province of British India. Her father was a renowned Brahmo Samaj teacher who worked at the Ravenshaw Collegiate School in Cuttack, while her mother was a social worker. Das also had an older sister named Kalyani Das Bhattacharya, who also later became a well-known freedom fighter. She completed her primary education from St. John's Diocesan Girls' Higher Secondary School in Kolkata, and later went on to pursue her higher education from the Bethune Women's College in Kolkata itself. She eventually shifted from Bethune College to the Diocesan College. Having been born into a family of social thinkers and scholars, Bina Das was influenced by a number of events that contributed to her growing revolutionary feelings. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, or Subhash Babu, as he was referred to by Das, was one such influencing factor in her life. He was a student of her father and therefore was a regular visitor in her parents' house during the early years of her life. As was recorded in her memoir, Bose was deeply inspired by her father, and she in turn drew her inspiration from Subhash Chandra Bose himself. In the year 1947, after India secured independence, Bina Das got married to Jatish Chandra Bhaumik, a contemporary freedom fighter belonging to the secret revolutionary group Jugantar. Political activities. The sparks of rebellion against the British regime were ignited in Bina Das during her school years when, on the day of her English examination, she submitted an essay on the novel Pother Dabi by Sarat Chandra Chattopadhyay in 1926 as her favorite novel. The book had been banned by the British government, but Bina Das had somehow managed to acquire a copy of it. As a result, even though she was a studious and hard-working child, when the results were declared, she received low marks for her essay. This unfair treatment triggered the revolutionary in her and cemented her vow to give back to her country the freedom it deserved. The marks she lost were her first contribution to the freedom struggle of her nation. Another act of defiance portrayed by Bina Das against the British was when, during the visit of the British Viceroy's wife as a guest to Das's school, she refused to scatter flowers at the guest's feet so as to welcome her presence. She was so insulted by the act and withdrew from the rehearsals as a form of protest. The event only served to further solidify her resolve to free her country from the oppressive British rule in India. CHHATRI SANGHA. Bina Das became a member of the CHHATRI SANGHA, a semi-revolutionary organization for women formed in Kolkata. The organization recruited young women and equipped them with basic self-defense skills, in addition to teaching them how to use numerous weapons, including batons and swords. Their primary goal was to permanently remove the British presence from their country. With the support from the group, Bina Das organized her first protest against the Simon Commission in India. Das soon shifted to the underground movement and got involved in several other political organizations, most of them shrouded in secrecy. The Bengal Volunteer Corps, formed by Bose, was one such party, in which Das joined in the year 1928. During this time, she became acquainted with another freedom fighter, Suhasini Ganguly, who later got her involved in the Bengal Revolutionary Party. Attempted assassination of Bengal governor. The turning point in her life came on 6th February of 1932, when Das was present in the Convocation Hall of the University of Calcutta to receive her graduation degree. However, the event did not go as planned, because on that day, at the young age of 21, Bina Das opened fire on the Bengal governor Stanley Jackson, thereby changing the course of history and embedding her presence more firmly into the Indian independence movement. The incident occurred when the governor, who was the guest of honor, was delivering a speech to the outgoing students present in the convocation hall. Bina Das was one among the attendees present with a revolver procured from a fellow freedom fighter from the Jugantar party, Kamala Das Gupta. Das had no extensive training regarding the usage of the firearm, but despite this, she decided to proceed with her plan. She concealed the firearm within her gown and waited for the right opportunity to use it. A few minutes into the speech, Das suddenly rose from her seat and aimed the revolver at the governor and fired multiple shots. A total of 5 bullets were fired from the gun, but none of them hit the target. She was soon arrested by the police at the scene. In the investigation that followed the incident, she was interrogated several times by the officers regarding the involvement of any other revolutionaries. Das owned up to her actions, but never revealed the names of her fellow fighters who gave her the firearm. As a result, when the case reached trial in the Calcutta High Court, Bina Das was sentenced to 9 years of rigorous imprisonment for attempted murder. Even the prison life could not tame her rebellious spirit. Reports of the hunger strike launched by Bina Das in the Midnapur prison, where she was jailed, state that Das was vehement in her quest for basic human rights in prison. The hunger strike was a protest against the inhuman treatment of the prisoners by the prison officials. Her demands were finally accepted by the authorities after 7 days of the strike. Life post-imprisonment. Bina Das was released early from prison in 1939 upon the intervention of Mahatma Gandhi. She immediately returned to the freedom struggle by joining the Congress Party and was appointed as the secretary of the South Kolkata Congress Committee in 1941. She later participated in the Quit India movement launched by Gandhi. Consequently, she was again sent to jail for a period of 3 years from 1942 to 1945 for organizing various strikes and causing unrest as part of her involvement in the movement. Following her release from prison in 1946, Bina Das became a member of the Bengal Provincial Legislative Assembly. In 1947, she proceeded to become a member of the West Bengal Legislative Assembly and continued to be a part of it till 1951. It was during this period, in 1947, that she married Jatish Chandra Bhomik, a political activist who was also involved in the Indian independence movement. Post-independence, Bina Das slowly faded into oblivion. She took up teaching for a brief period of her life, spending her time in schools till the death of her husband in 1986. Death. Bina Das was one among the several brave freedom fighters of India who died a stranger's death. Following her husband's demise, Das led a solitary life in Rishikesh, embracing the anonymous and solitary lifestyle for herself. The lack of a graduation certificate also impacted her both professionally and personally, impeding her efforts in securing a job. Such was the extent of her isolation that she passed away in anonymity, with her body not even identified for at least a month after her death. According to reports, on 26th December 1986, a highly decomposed body was found at a roadside in the city of Rishikesh. A passing crowd had discovered the body and reported it to the authorities. As the body was in an advanced state of decay, it took about a month for the officials to determine that the body belonged to the courageous freedom fighter and political activist Bina Das. An alternate source recorded in a documentary on Bina Das states that the unconscious form of Das was found in a bus stand, from where she was taken to the hospital. However, no help could sustain her life, and she succumbed to death the very next day. Either way, Bina Das, the militant daughter of Bengal and India, had died homeless, alone, and forgotten by the people for whom she sacrificed so much. Notable works. Prior to her death, Bina Das had written 2 autobiographies in her native Bengali language, titled Shrinkhal Jhankar and Pitridhan. Her book, Shrinkhal Jhankar, is a political memoir that gives the readers a glimpse into some of the most critical moments of her life and her struggles to attain freedom for her nation. Legacy. To honor the contributions of Bina Das, her sister Kalyani Das edited the book Bengal Speaks, published in 1944, and dedicated it to her sister. Additionally, the memoir of Bina Das was translated from Bengali by Dhira Dhar and was published by Zuban Books in the year 2005. The book provides deep insight into the personality of the woman who was fearless enough to stand up against the British and take up arms to secure independence for India. The Indian government, recognizing her contributions to social work, awarded the Padma Shri to Bina Das in the year 1960. Further, the University of Calcutta posthumously conferred the bachelor's degree to Das, along with another freedom fighter, Pritilata Vadedar, in 2012, approximately 80 years after withholding them due to her revolutionary actions back then. According to certain reports, a biopic of Bina Das is set to be made by the Indian film director Srijit Mukherjee as a tribute to the brave woman. Conclusion. She was a young girl who looked up to Subhash Chandra Bose and wanted to leave her mark in the freedom struggle for her country. She took up arms against the enemies to show her protest against their rule. She dedicated her life for her country's independence. But Bina Das's dedication was forgotten, her identity lost, and her existence almost erased from history. The memories of the fighter who fought against the British should be revived in the minds of her people, for her actions and sacrifices must always be remembered by her country.